If the power goes out, this isn't a bad night. It's a sudden economic and social event that can last days, hit millions, and instantly reorder who survives. In the U.S., the average customer experienced roughly 5 1-2 hours of interruptions in 2022. That's excluding major events, which are the real killers. Recent history proves it. Single events now regularly put tens of millions of people offline at once. The 2025 Iberian blackout knocked out power across roughly 55 rows, 60 million people, and shut airports, trains, and banks in one afternoon. Economists and grid researchers warn these incidents cost billions and are rising in frequency and severity thanks to extreme weather and aging infrastructure. The IEA and NREL both show long-duration outages have outsized economic impacts and a growing exceedance probability for extended events. So right now, while you still can, you need to stop thinking lights out, inconvenience, and start thinking lights out, resource triage. In the next minute, I'll tell you exactly what most people will try to grab first and the few practical, evidence-backed moves that actually keep those things in your hands when the taking starts. 10. Let me paint a picture for you. When the lights go out, the first thing most people will instinctively go for is cash and precious metals. That's right, hard currency and gold, silver. You might think, why would they take cash when everything else is more valuable? But in a blackout scenario, liquidity is king. Cold, crumpled bills are far easier to slip into a boot, bury in a sock, or stash in a jacket than bulky tools or canned food. Governments and organized groups will move fast to seize monetary instruments to control transactions, enforce rationing, and collapse any underground markets they can't regulate. In Zimbabwe's hyperinflation eras, people were storing gold coins and foreign currency in hidden caches to avoid seizure by corrupt officials. In Venezuela's economic meltdown, officials confiscated large denominations of foreign currency from homes simply because they wanted to control the flow of money. The thing most don't realize, even small change becomes strategic. Nickels and pennies might seem worthless, but in a collapsed system with printed IOUs or emergency tokens, coins can be used for bartering or dialing payphones, if any remain. That's why you'll see cash disappear first. The tactic to protect it is counterintuitive. You don't want your largest pile of cash in one spot. You split it among hidden pockets in everyday items, false heels sewing into the back of furniture, hidden compartments in trunks or appliances. You'll keep decoy rolls in plain view, small amounts in a visible wallet or jar, while your main reserves are dispersed in caches only you know about. Some prepper networks even bury dead drops of currency in rural areas, marking with subtle landmarks so you can retrieve them later. If authorities come knocking and see a handful of bills and coins, they might take them and leave, assuming that's all you have. But by then, your real wealth is already invisible and untouchable. 9. Next on the list are high-grade nutritional supplements, vitamins, and performance enhancers. Things people don't usually consider top targets, but in a blackout, these become survival currency. When food supply chains collapse, people will scramble for anything that gives a metabolic edge. A protein powder, powdered vitamins, electrolyte mixes, amino acid stacks, or even old bodybuilding supplements. Consider Puerto Rico after hurricanes. Powdered protein and multivitamins began trading at insane markups because people assumed those gave them an edge in maintaining strength during crisis. What most don't know is that many of these powders and supplements have shelf stability far longer than you'd expect, some lasting 5 to 10 years if stored airtight. That longevity makes them ideal for raiders, low weight, high value, and versatile. During the Argentine economic chaos, black market health mixes became a kind of underground currency. As authorities close stores and flood the streets, those supplements vanish. Protecting them requires you treat them like cash. Don't let them all sit together. I'd advise you convert some into innocuous forms. Hide protein powders inside sealed paint cans, vacuum seal vitamins into food-grade pouches, even split bottles into decoys. Also, rotate your stash to keep freshness intact. Stockpiling 100 tubs of the same supplement makes you a target. Instead, diversify your portfolio across different formulas and brands, so if one formula is seized, you still have others. You can also convert a few into milled powder and blend into existing food items. Camouflage your supplements as part of your daily diet. Finally, don't talk about them. In normal times, supplement stacks get you labeled a health nut. In collapse times, they mark you as a target. The fewer people who realize you even have such a stash, the safer it remains. 8. Now let's move to water storage systems and filtration gear. Not just jugs of water, which are obvious, but the advanced gear that turns creek patches into potable water sources. Most people assume water itself is the first item to vanish, but the real target is the gear that gives you autonomy after the natural sources dry up or become contaminated. Think portable reverse osmosis units, modular filtration pumps, UV sterilizers, ceramic membranes, and even spare membranes or replacement cartridges. Why these? Because once control is imposed, authorities want to ration water. If you have the gear to purify your own, you're outside their control. During Syria's infrastructure collapse, militants systematically raided neighborhoods to seize advanced water purification gear. In Puerto Rico, communities that held on to UV filters and membrane systems weathered the crisis far better than those reliant on bottled water. In countries like Peru during droughts, people stealing purification systems became so common that local militias enforced no-go zones for filter ownership. The key to protecting your water gear is integrating it invisibly. Build modular systems that break into innocuous parts hidden in plumbing lines, inside walls, or under raised flooring. Keep alternate backup systems separate. Your main high-output membrane system hidden deep, while a small gravity filter is visible and available to show to searchers. Don't label cartridges H2O membrane. Use generic code markings. Also, bury replacement filters near water sources you plan to use later in waterproof caches so that even if your visible unit is taken, you can rebuild later. Another less-known tactic, blend water gear with innocuous common items. For example, hide UV lamps in sections of plumbing or conceal membranes inside existing pump housings. Practice quick disassembly so parts can be hidden if someone is coming. And store renderings of your system in encrypted schematics so you can recreate it elsewhere if your home system is lost. 7. Let me tell you about communications encryption keys and secure credentials, the digital skeleton of surviving in a blackout. You might assume hackers will focus on servers or networks, but the first thing they'll hunt down in a collapse is your ability to communicate privately. Your encryption devices, hardware keys, secure tokens, YubiKeys, ProKey, crypto wallets, login credentials, and VPN keys. Having broadband access means almost nothing if your keys get confiscated. In Ukraine, during the early invasion, Russian forces explicitly targeted individuals known to hold crypto keys or secure comms devices, raiding homes, grabbing hardware wallets, and forcing passwords under duress. Once they control your keys, they can impersonate you, grab your assets, disable your ability to access your networks, and even blackmail you. What few people realize is that hardware keys often carry lethal targeting information. They mark you in logs as someone with something digital. Protecting them isn't just about encryption, it's about misdirection, redundancy, and dumping. First, always carry cold, air-gapped backups stored in innocuous containers. Sealed coin envelopes hidden in picture frames, inside battery compartments, even inside old calculators. Use decoy keys as bait. Second, fragment your credential storage. Never keep your full key set in one place. Split across multiple drives or modules so that if one is captured, the rest remain. Third, advance plausible deniability encryption. Use tools like VeraCrypt hidden volumes or multi-layer encryption so that even if someone forces you to open something, they'll only get the decoy stuff. Always keep a cover identity ready. Also, burn credentials from systems you plan to abandon first. If you're evacuating, wipe metadata and leave only necessary access controls with plausible, low-profile devices. Finally, practice key roll rotation under duress. At short notice, knowing how to transfer credentials under pressure can save your digital life. Don't think of encryption keys as just data. They're survival tools just like weapons or food. 6. Vehicles, especially off-grid capable ones and the parts that keep them alive. Not just the car or truck itself, but the spare engines, transmissions, fuel system components, tires, hoses, and replacement modules. In a collapse, a vehicle with all its parts is worth more than a house. It allows mobility, supply runs, escape routes, relocation, and even leverage in trade. During the collapse in Venezuela, armed groups routinely seized whole vehicles from civilian homes, and they didn't just stop there, they often dismantled them for parts later. In the 2004 Venezuelan crisis, gangs blocked highways at night, commandeering working vehicles and sending owners home on foot. A working motorbike, ironically, was often safer because it was less likely to be seized in full, though its parts might be. What most people don't understand is that the parts, ECUs, fuel injectors, turbochargers, axles, alternators, often vanish before the vehicles do. The black markets devour them. Protecting your vehicle assets means breaking them apart and hiding the high-value subcomponents. Store a decoy vehicle in plain sight, an older, beat-up car with obvious wear and basic parts. That draws attention, steals will take it first. But your main, more capable vehicles should be sparsely equipped when not in use. Many critical parts stored separately in caches, under barrows with emphatic camouflage, or in trusted secondary sites. Use shell vehicles. Nothing striking about them, no stickers, no decals. Strip engine bays of optional modules and leave only the minimal hubs, and keep the real modules hidden. You might even pre-tag parts so they're ready to reassemble when needed. Another tactic few use: stage duplicate registration under secondary identities or via shell companies, so that if one vehicle is seized, the others are under different names. Also, avoid using the same vehicle for every trip. Rotate usage so no single car becomes obvious. In short, by the time looters or authorities show up, your vehicles will look like broken junk, missing critical bits. They'll move on. Meanwhile, your true mobility remains intact. 5. Batteries and portable power packs, the small things that become the new currency. When the lights die, people don't immediately grab a generator. They grab whatever keeps a phone alive, a radio running, or a headlamp bright. AAA rolls, 9-volt blocks, 18650 lithium cells, USB power banks, spare phone batteries, solar USB panels, and the tiny adapters or soldering kits that let you repurpose cells. These items are lightweight, high value, and easy to snatch or slip into a bag, and history shows charging capability is monetized fast in outages. People paid just to charge phones in prior blackouts. Here's what actually works: decentralize and disguise. Don't keep your entire stash in one prepper tin. Split cells into multiple innocuous containers, vacuum-sealed pouches inside paint cans, small batteries sewn into clothing seams, power banks hidden inside hollowed kitchen appliances. Use Faraday-lined pouches for high-value lithium cells to reduce detection risk and moisture damage. Label decoys with cheap branding and let them be the visible sacrifice, so cursory searches find something and move on. Rotate stock to avoid dead chemistry and keep a tiny toolkit for swapping batteries on the fly. Ability to service a device is as valuable as the cell itself. Practice quick concealment and a show one, hide the rest routine with your household so your visible footprint screams ordinary while the capability remains functional. 4. Critical paperwork and registrations, the credential economy of collapse. In a stressed system, documentation buys access. Passports, driver's licenses, vehicle titles, insurance papers, WIC cards, prescription records, and ration tokens become immediate targets because they unlock movement, food, medical distribution, and bureaucratic priority. Governments and organized actors alike will use paperwork to control people. Authorities redistribute, private actors impersonate or coerce, and disaster audits repeatedly show official control of commodities, and paperwork becomes central to who eats and who moves. Protection here is counterintuitive, fragmentation, and plausible deniability. Keep an obvious daily set of mundane documents that you carry, but fragment your critical proofs across 3 different layers. An encrypted micro SD locked inside a common item, picture frame, battery compartment, a sealed paper copy at a trusted off-site location, and a third minimal legal copy in a water and fire-resistant pouch you can plausibly surrender. Scan everything and encrypt with a strong passphrase. Practice plausible cover stories. So if an actor demands papers, you can hand over something that looks complete enough to satisfy them while the vital proof remains dispersed. Don't keep full titles and deeds together with large caches of supplies. Dissociate your legal identity from your stockpile. If possible, register for any pre-disaster relief or benefit programs in advance and keep the registration evidence separated. It's bureaucratic leverage that pays off when distribution points open. 3. Baby and pet essentials, the emotionally non-negotiable goods. Formula, specialty, baby nutrition, diapers, wipes, and pet food vanish sooner than you think because they are immovable in value. You can't substitute a baby's need for formula, and parents will trade almost anything for a pack of diapers. The 2022 infant formula crisis and repeated storm reports show these items form black market staples and urgent request lists from relief organizations. Charities and grassroots responders frequently report diapers and formula among the top unmet needs after storms. Protecting them requires empathy plus tradecraft. First, rotate stock by expiry and build a layered stash. A tiny visible pod in your grab bag, a rotated home supply you use daily, which signals active consumption, and your main reserve split into multiple caches. Sealed buckets, mislabeled bins, off-site lockers. Use substitutions wisely. Stock concentrated nutrient blocks, electrolyte packets, and medically acceptable wet food substitutes that can stand in for formula in absolute emergency. These are less obvious to searchers and more compact. For diapers and pet food, repackage small retail bundles that look like normal shopping overflow rather than a bulk prepper pallet. Stash the bulk in smaller decoy containers, paint cans, laundry bins, and keep a spreadsheet of expirations encrypted in multiple places. Finally, build social cover. Quietly trade help in your immediate circle before crisis hits, so you're not an obvious hoarder and so neighbors have reasons to protect your stash rather than expose it. 2. Don't underestimate what I'm about to say. The cold chain, refrigerated medicines, insulin, biologics, vaccine stocks, and the equipment that keeps them cold will be hunted early and hard. When the grid falters, it isn't just the bottled water or canned food that turns into currency, it's the coolers and the knowledge that preserves life-saving biologics. Hospitals and clinics with vaccine freezers and pharmacy fridges suddenly represent the difference between treatable and fatal outcomes, and history and studies show those assets are prioritized for seizure, requisition, or theft because they're small, portable relatively, and immediately useful. In Puerto Rico after Maria, maintaining cold storage for critical supplies became a logistical nightmare and a major focus of relief efforts. Private generators and refrigerated containers were requisitioned for centralized use to prevent spoilage. Medical cold chain literature and industry guidance make the same point. A break in the 2 to 8 degree hours chain often destroys months of stocked vaccines or insulin in hours to days, and replacement supply lines are slow in a disrupted system. That means anyone who can keep meds cold becomes a node of power. Here's what you must do now, not later. First, decentralize temperature-sensitive meds. Split insulin and critical vials into multiple insulated caches, each with phase change packs or small certified medical coolers rated for 48 to 72-hour holds. Keep one kit in a go bag, one hidden in a vehicle, and one in a buried insulated container. Second, prioritize energy-efficient silent cold solutions. purpose-built vaccine coolers, battery-backed compressor units, and small solar-powered fridge systems. Because noisy, fuel-hungry options get taken first. Third, learn cold chain triage, which meds can tolerate short temperature excursions, what to salvage first, and how to rotate stock to avoid needless loss. Fourth, document serials and ownership and store encrypted manifest offsite so you can claim assets legally, and also so you can prove what was taken if requisition occurs. The academic and industry best practices on cold chain protection are clear. Redundancy, low signature refrigeration, and tactical dispersal save lives and keep your family functional. 1. This is the blunt truth you don't want to hear but must accept. The absolute top prize in any prolonged blackout or collapse is control of the grid's guts. Transformers, switchgear, copper conductors, and the human operators who know how to run them. When infrastructure collapses, opportunists and organized syndicates don't just haul away generators, they strip entire distribution networks for copper and oil, steal transformers for scrap, sabotage lines to prioritize their own neighborhoods, or coerce technicians to reroute power. Recent global examples, from the massive transformer thefts and copper wire raids that left Indian and African communities dark for weeks, to coordinated sabotage prosecutions in the U.S., show that equipment theft isn't fringe folklore. It's a modern, high-impact tactic that can keep whole towns powerless. Replacing a distribution transformer isn't a weekend job. Procurement, transport, and reinstallation can take weeks to months, and insurers and utilities are stretched thin in disasters. So how do you protect mobility and independence from the people who will go after the infrastructure first? First, assume centralized power will be unreliable and pre-position the means to be self-sufficient in ways that don't scream valuable. Microgrids with camouflaged ground mount panels, multiple small battery banks dispersed in innocuous boxes, and low-tech mechanical solutions, wood stoves, rocket mass heaters, manual pumps that don't require transformers. Second, if you own important hardware, generators, large batteries, high-capacity inverters, fragment the critical components. Keep control modules, fuses, or expensive copper buswork separate from the visible chassis so the visible unit looks useless if looters come. Third, cultivate relationships with local utility crews and community leaders now. Documented mutual aid pacts reduce the chance your equipment will be requisitioned and increase the chance your neighborhood is defended as critical. Fourth, harden and mark assets. Serial numbered parts, tamper-evident locks, and GPS-tagged non-powered assets can deter casual theft and help recover stolen items later. Finally, prepare your fallback. Mobility plans that don't depend on immediate grid repair. The more you make your survival depend on invisible, dispersed capabilities rather than on the single heavy things that scavengers prize, the more likely you are to keep functioning when everyone else is dark.